Okay, imagine this. You're running late, stress is just building, and then bam, someone cuts you off in traffic. Aggressively.
Mm.
And you feel it instantly, right? That surge. Your heart starts pounding, your hands grip the wheel.
Oh, yeah. It's that physiological hijack. We've
Yeah.
all been there.
Yeah.
Your brain just goes from 0 to 100 in like a microsecond.
Exactly. And that raw, uncontrollable reaction is why we're doing this deep dive today.
Right.
We're pulling some really actionable insights from the book Armed Against Anger by Michael Piasecki and Elizabeth T. Ambrosia.
It's a great source.
And our mission for you is pretty simple. We're not here to teach you how to, suppress your feelings. Anger is natural.
It's a messenger.
It's a messenger. This is about how to manage the response to that message so you can actually keep your peace.
And that's the core of it, really. It's about strategy, moving away from those knee-jerk reactions
Yes.
and replacing them with thoughtful, intentional responses. The authors break it down into 8 really clear lessons.
And we're going to get into all of them, giving you that toolkit to, break free from anger's grip.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's start with the foundation, the absolute first step, which is always self-awareness. You have to know the landscape.
Yeah, you have to become a scientist of your own emotions.
Yeah.
You're basically gathering data on yourself.
Which is lesson 1. Know your anger triggers. We all know anger is natural, but what specifically sparks it for you? Is it traffic? Sure. But maybe it's deeper. Is it being ignored at work? Or someone constantly interrupting you?
And that's all about pattern recognition.
Yeah.
The book is really insistent on this. You have to be able to name the spark.
Name it. I like that.
Yeah, because once you see the pattern, maybe you keep a mental note or even a journal, you completely shift the battleground.
You're not just reacting anymore.
Exactly. You're not
Right.
firefighting. You see the trigger coming, and you can have a plan ready. It's proactive, not reactive.
Okay, so that brings us to what happens in those few seconds right after the trigger hits. You have to interrupt that physical reaction.
Right.
And that's lessons 2 and 3, which really go together. Slow down and just breathe.
This is the direct countermeasure to that speed up we were talking about.
Yeah.
You need an intentional pause button.
When you feel that heat rising.
Yeah, the adrenaline spike.
Yeah.
You have to deliberately slow down your internal clock, mentally and physically.
And the tools here are so tactical. The book recommends the classic, count to 10. It's a classic for a reason.
It works. It's a cognitive interrupt.
Right. And you do that while engaging the physical interrupt.
Yeah.
Focusing on your breath. But the technique is key.
It is. It's not just a little gasp of air.
No, it's deep breaths in through your nose, really feeling your diaphragm expand, and then a long, slow exhale through your mouth.
And let's get into the why of that, because it's not just a cliche. When you do that slow, deep breathing, you are physically activating your parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest system.
That's the one. It actually physically lowers your heart rate. It slows down that flood of stress hormones.
So your body relaxes, and that lets the rational part of your brain come back online.
Exactly. It's physiological warfare against your own stress response.
And the authors make a huge point about practice. You have to do this when you're calm, so the action is just second nature when you're actually stressed.
For sure. You don't want to be learning how to hit the brakes when you're already going 80 miles an hour.
So true. Okay, so once you've paused, you've cooled that initial flame, we get to lesson 4. And this is where things get really interesting.
This is a big pivot in the book.
Yeah. It asks, what's really going on?
This might be the most profound question in the whole book, because anger is so often a mask.
A mask for what?
For something more vulnerable. Fear, insecurity, frustration, maybe even shame or embarrassment.
Okay, let's go back to the traffic example. You're
Right.
furious because someone cut you off. But if you ask, why am I really angry?
The answer might be,
I'm not actually angry at that driver. I'm terrified of being late for this meeting because I'm worried about my job.
precisely. The traffic is just an easy target for that fear.
Wow.
So if you just focus on the road rage, you're avoiding the real issue, which is the fear about your job. Asking that one question, why am I really angry, redirects your energy to the actual problem you can solve.
But isn't it really hard to stop and ask such a deep question when your body is already in fight or flight?
It is hard. That's why lesson 4 has to come after lessons 2 and 3. The pause gives you the mental space to even ask the question.
It creates the opportunity.
That says you're reframing. It's a habit you have to build day by day.
All right, so moving on from that internal awareness, the next set of lessons is all about challenging your mindset and choosing your response. Lesson 5, tackle irrational anger.
Our brains are just fantastic at catastrophizing, aren't they? We take
Oh,
one little thing
oh yeah.
and we write this whole disaster movie script around it. We make a mountain out of a molehill.
So we need to call it out. The book says you have to challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself honestly, is this really as big a deal as I'm making it right now?
And 99% of the time, the answer is no. Once you say the irrational thought out loud, like, he used my coffee mug, now my whole day is ruined.
You realize how absurd it sounds.
Totally. And that saves you so much wasted emotional energy.
Which flows perfectly into lesson 6. Learn to let go. We've all been there, right? Holding on to some tiny, irritating comment for hours.
We give every little annoyance the same amount of our energy. And the book's critical question here, sort of the core of everything is this worth my peace of mind?
Oof. That's a powerful question. I had that moment last week. I was arguing in my head with a customer service recording. Was that worth my peace?
Definitely not.
No.
Yeah.
So if it won't matter next week, you have to just consciously release it, let it go.
And letting go is an active choice. It's not passive. It's an intentional withdrawal of your energy.
Absolutely. And making that choice prepares you for lesson 7. Take control of your reactions. This is where it all comes together.
Right. We have to accept what we can't control. We can't control the traffic, the weather, what other people do. But we always have control over our response.
Okay, let's use their analogy from the book because it's so good. They say to think of anger as a car that's speeding down the road. You are the driver. The trigger is just a hazard on the road. The pause from lessons 2 and 3 is you hitting the brakes.
I love that.
And then you get to decide, do you steer into the crash, the yelling, the chaos, or do you steer out of it and stay in control?
It's all about taking responsibility for your response. In that moment of pause, you ask, will yelling help this situation or make it worse?
And if it's going to make it worse, you shift gears. You choose a different path.
If you choose a different path.
And that leads to the final lesson, lesson 8, which is what turns all of this into a real lasting habit. Always reflect on your anger.
Yes. The work isn't over when the moment passes. The authors are very clear that reflection is a skill you have to cultivate, like a muscle.
It's not just feeling bad about it later.
No, it's not passive regret. It's an active data collection session. For you, about you.
So what kind of data are we looking for? What should you be asking yourself?
Very specific things. What was the exact trigger? What was the real emotion underneath it from lesson 4? How did I react? And this is the most important part. What is one single thing I could have done differently?
And maybe jotting that down?
Jotting it down makes it real.
Yeah.
It turns a moment of frustration into a learning module for next time. You're literally reprogramming yourself.
Okay, so that's the framework. Now let's make this super practical. Let's talk about building your anger management toolbox.
This is the application phase.
Yeah.
And it has to be personal. Your toolbox needs tools that are ready to go. For you, it might be deep breathing. For someone else, it's a quick walk.
Or just stepping away from the screen for 2 minutes.
Exactly. You need to know what your go-to tools are and have them ready.
Okay, let's run through a scenario. At work, you're giving a presentation and a coworker keeps interrupting you. That's a classic trigger.
A huge one. So instead of snapping, your first move is lesson 1, recognition. You think, this is my being undermined trigger.
Just naming it gives you some distance.
It does. Then you deploy the pause. One slow, deep breath. No one even has to know you're doing it.
And then you ask that big question from lesson 4, what's really going on here?
Right. And maybe you realize, I'm not angry at them. I'm afraid my boss will think I'm not competent because of the interruptions.
That changes everything.
It does.
That does.
Because now you use lesson 7, controlling your reaction. Lashing out just proves you've lost control. So instead, you choose the intentional response. You calmly finish your thought and then address the interruption professionally. You steered the car.
Let's do a home one, the classic. Your kid spills a huge glass of juice on the new rug right after you said not to.
Instant trigger.
Yeah, instead of just yelling.
You deploy the whole sequence. Trigger hits. You count to 10, focusing only on your breath. That 10 seconds feels like an eternity, but it's physically necessary.
And that pause lets you bypass irrational anger. So instead of, this rug is ruined forever, you think.
You realize it's just juice. It can be cleaned. It's not worth the damage that yelling will do. You choose the calm response.
And you teach a better lesson, you save the relationship, and you prove to yourself you're in charge of your emotions.
You're the driver, not the passenger.
And one more. For the modern world, that rude comment online.
Ah, yes. The moment you feel that sting, you have to deploy lesson 6. Ask immediately, is this worth my peace of mind?
And the answer is always no.
Always. Letting it go is a huge win.
Which brings us to a final crucial step for making this all stick. Celebrate your progress.
This is so important. Positive reinforcement is what keeps the engine going. Every single time you navigate one of these moments without blowing up, you have to acknowledge it.
Even the small ones.
Especially the small ones. Did you pause instead of yelling about the juice? Did you stay calm in that meeting? You have to give yourself a mental pat on the back.
Because we're so good at beating ourselves up when we fail.
We are. We have to get just as good at validating the wins. That's what makes the new behavior stick.
So, to sum up our deep dive into Armed Against Anger, getting a handle on your emotions, it doesn't have to be this big, complicated thing.
Not at all. It boils down to simple, connected steps. Know your triggers, hit the pause button, look for the real emotion, and choose your response.
And those small shifts from that chaotic reaction to an intentional response, they lead to huge results.
Yeah.
Better relationships, better well-being.
You're essentially building a mental suit of armor.
The source material framed reflection as a skill that has to be deliberately cultivated. So that leaves us with a final thought for you to consider this week. How can you move reflection from just that passive feeling of, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, into an active, maybe even scheduled practice? How can you make sure you are constantly sharpening the tools in your own personal toolkit against anger?